Ever met someone who seems humble yet has an underlying sense of superiority? Today we delve into the enigma of covert narcissism, a less conspicuous subtype of narcissistic personality disorder. Unlike their grandiose counterparts, covert narcissists often masquerade behind a veil of modesty and humility, making their narcissistic tendencies less apparent. But don't be fooled. Beneath this humble exterior, they harbor feelings of superiority and a strong need for admiration. They may portray themselves as victims, constantly wronged or misunderstood, to seek sympathy and validation. They may manipulate through a facade of helplessness and resort to passive-aggressive behaviors. Their belief in their own exceptionalism and intense fear of rejection further amplifies their complexities. They may also struggle with boundaries and have a tough time accepting criticism. Underneath it all, a deep-seated inferiority complex lurks. Prepare to dive into the world of covert narcissism and unravel its hidden intricacies. They may seem humble, but is it just a facade? Imagine a person who often downplays their achievements, who consistently presents themselves as modest. These individuals may seem like the epitome of humility, always understating their own successes, always appearing to be self-effacing. It's a far cry from the image we often associate with narcissism. These are the covert narcissists. They wear a mask of humility, carefully crafted to hide their true nature. Their narcissism isn't as obvious as their grandiose counterparts. They don't boast or brag. They don't demand attention or admiration. Instead, they softly, subtly seek it out, all under the guise of modesty and humility. But don't be fooled. This apparent humility is just that, apparent. It's a veneer, a front, a masquerade. It's a cleverly constructed facade designed to hide their true feelings of superiority and their deep need for admiration. But beneath this humble exterior, a different story unfolds. Ever felt like someone constantly plays the victim? Enter the world of covert narcissism, where the narrative is often spun around the protagonist's perceived injustices. These individuals are experts at adopting a victim mentality, painting themselves as the misunderstood heroes of their own stories. But don't be deceived. This isn't about overcoming adversity or finding strength in vulnerability. It's a carefully crafted facade designed to elicit sympathy and validation. It's about convincing others that they are the ones constantly wronged, perpetually misunderstood, and unfairly targeted. They weave tales of their trials and tribulations, often embellishing or distorting the truth to fit their narrative. The goal? To gain your sympathy. To make you believe that they are the victims in a world that just doesn't understand them. But remember, it's not about truth or justice for them. It's about control and manipulation. This victim mentality is a manipulative tool in their arsenal. They may not seem aggressive, but their tactics can be just as damaging. This sentence encapsulates the essence of covert narcissists when it comes to manipulation and passive aggression. Covert narcissists are masters of manipulative helplessness. Picture this: a person who constantly portrays themselves as a hapless victim, unable to tackle even the simplest of tasks. They may feign incompetence or ignorance, all to ensnare others into a web of sympathy, assistance, and undivided attention. This act of manipulative helplessness is a classic maneuver in the covert narcissist's playbook. But the manipulation doesn't stop there. Covert narcissists often resort to passive-aggressive behavior as a means to exert control and manipulate those around them. Passive aggression is a tactic that allows the covert narcissist to express their hostility or resentment indirectly. This could be through subtle jabs, backhanded compliments, or by intentionally failing to fulfill tasks. It's a way of expressing their anger without having to confront the issue head-on, making it difficult for others to call them out on their behavior. This indirect form of aggression can be incredibly frustrating for those on the receiving end. It's like being in a boxing match with an invisible opponent. You never see the punches coming until they've landed. And because these actions are often cloaked in plausible deniability, it's easy for the covert narcissist to play innocent when confronted. The goal of these manipulative and passive-aggressive tactics is simple: to maintain control. By presenting themselves as helpless, they lure others into providing the attention and validation they crave. And by resorting to passive aggression, they're able to express their frustrations without risking direct confrontation. These tactics allow the covert narcissist to maintain their facade of humility while subtly asserting their superiority. In essence, the covert narcissist's manipulation and passive aggression are two sides of the same coin. Both strategies serve to manipulate those around them, ensuring the covert narcissist remains the center of attention, and because these tactics are so subtle, they often go unnoticed, allowing the narcissist to continue their manipulation unchecked. Passive aggression is their subtle weapon of choice. They may seem insecure, but deep down, they see themselves as unique. This statement captures the paradox of covert narcissism, a psychological phenomenon characterized by a sense of superiority shrouded in apparent humility and insecurity. Covert narcissists often possess an inflated sense of their own specialness. They believe they're unique, superior to others in subtle, often intangible ways. It's not about being the richest, the most beautiful, or the most accomplished. Instead, they see themselves as possessing a certain depth, a unique perspective, or an unmatched sensitivity that sets them apart. Yet, this sense of uniqueness is not openly flaunted. Like a hidden treasure, it's kept safe, only to be revealed to those deemed worthy. This feeling of superiority, however, is not without its shadow. It's closely intertwined with an intense fear of rejection. The covert narcissist's self-worth is precariously balanced on the narrow ledge of their perceived uniqueness. Any threat to this, any hint of rejection or criticism, can send them spiraling into anxiety and defensiveness. They fear being ordinary, being like everyone else, being found out as less than they believe themselves to be. Their fear of rejection often leads them to avoid situations where they might be judged negatively. They may shy away from competition, fearing that losing would shatter their self-image. They may also struggle with intimacy, as close relationships often involve the risk of rejection and the exposure of one's imperfections. It's important to remember that these feelings of superiority and fear are not conscious choices for the covert narcissist. They're deeply ingrained patterns of thinking and feeling, often rooted in early life experiences. They're part of a complex defensive structure built to protect a fragile sense of self. In many ways, the covert narcissist is like an actor who has lost themselves in a role, unable to distinguish their true self from the character they've become. And at the heart of this character lies a paradox. A feeling of superiority masked by insecurity, a craving for recognition coupled with a fear of rejection. Fear and a sense of superiority are the two sides of their coin. It's a coin they toss into the air every day, never knowing which side will land face up. And it's this unpredictable dance between superiority and fear that makes the covert narcissist so complex, so challenging, and so fascinating to understand. They may not respect your space, and they certainly don't like being criticized. This statement perfectly captures the essence of a covert narcissist's tendency to disregard boundaries, and their difficulty in accepting criticism. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define our personal space, our comfort zones, and our sense of self. They help us maintain a healthy balance in our relationships, respecting the individuality and autonomy of others. But for covert narcissists, this concept of boundaries can be a tough nut to crack. They often struggle to recognize and respect the boundaries set by others, viewing them as obstacles to fulfilling their own needs and desires. Imagine a situation where someone is constantly intruding into your personal space, demanding your time and attention, disregarding your comfort, and manipulating situations to get what they want. That's a classic example of a covert narcissist's lack of boundaries. This behavior not only undermines the autonomy of others, but also creates an environment of discomfort and distress. Now let's talk about their inability to handle criticism. Everyone at some point faces criticism. It's a part of life, a tool for growth. But for covert narcissists, criticism is perceived as a personal attack, a direct threat to their inflated self-image. Their immediate reaction? Defensive withdrawal or playing the victim card. They might sulk, pout, or go silent, turning the tables so that they appear to be the wronged party. This intense reaction to criticism often stems from their deep-seated fear of rejection and their desperate need for validation. They fear that criticism will expose their flaws and shatter the perfect image they've carefully crafted, which is why they go to great lengths to avoid or deflect it. The lack of boundaries and difficulty in accepting criticism are two significant traits that impact a covert narcissist's relationships with others. They contribute to a constant cycle of manipulation, resentment, and emotional distress, causing strain and discomfort in their interpersonal relationships. So, remember, their world revolves around their needs, with little regard for others. It's a stark reminder of the challenges faced when dealing with covert narcissists. They can adapt and change, but not in a good way. This statement perfectly encapsulates the chameleon-like adaptability of covert narcissists. Just like a chameleon changes its colors to blend in with its environment, covert narcissists can adjust their personalities and behaviors to meet the expectations of those around them. This adaptability, however, is not driven by empathy or the desire to connect with others. Instead, it serves as a tool for manipulation, a way to maintain their desired image and control their environment. But this adaptability comes with its own challenges. Covert narcissists often struggle to express their needs directly. They might use indirect or passive means to elicit the support and attention they crave. This might mean hinting at what they want or need, or manipulating others into offering it without asking directly. Their inability to express their needs in a straightforward manner adds another layer of complexity to their behavior. Like a chameleon, they change to suit their needs. We've explored the many faces of the covert narcissist. From an outward appearance of humility and modesty, they mask an underlying sense of superiority and a compelling need for admiration. They often play the victim, projecting themselves as misunderstood and wronged, seeking sympathy and validation. By adopting a facade of helplessness, they manipulate others into providing assistance or attention. Their passive-aggressive behavior can be challenging to confront, as they express resentment or frustration indirectly. Deep within, the covert narcissist harbors a belief of their own exceptionalism and a deep-seated fear of rejection. Their struggle with boundaries, both respecting others and maintaining their own, is another telltale sign. They also grapple with receiving criticism, often responding with passive resistance or by playing the victim. Unmasking the covert narcissist involves understanding these traits. Understanding these traits can help us identify and deal with covert narcissists in our lives.